how did a realtor fresh out of college in a luxury market become the top realtor in her market within 10 years? Oh, and by the way, she's not from there. Well, we're going to find out how she did it today. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, onto our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now, and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show. And welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be talking to top 1% luxury producer, Lindsey Harn. Before we get to Lindsey, just a quick reminder, quick announcement. We have a webinar coming up for all of you. It's totally free. You're going to get to access this. We're going to communicate live. We have 3 speakers. It's going to be on February 25th from 12 to 3 p.m. Central Time. So 12 to 3, February 25th. Here's how to register. KeepingItRealWebinar.com. Use the promo code podcast. KeepingItRealWebinar.com. Promo code podcast, and you will get, the price will go to zero. Thank you to our sponsors for allowing this to be and help us make this happen. Thank you to all of you for encouraging me to continue doing these, and we're going to try to do them every single month. So again, go there right now. We have just a few seats left, no joke. KeepingItRealWebinar.com, promo code podcast. All right. As always, please tell a friend about this episode. Also, tell another agent about the webinar. You can invite them. I'm happy to have them there too until the seats run out. So let's do that. And leave us a review on whatever podcast app you're listening to this on. This really helps us get in front of more and more agents. All right, let's get right to it. My conversation with Lindsey Harn. All right, today we are speaking with Lindsey Lindsey Harn with Christie's International Real Estate, Sereno, San Luis Obispo County in California. Let me tell you more about Lindsey. Now, Lindsey Harn's Lindsey Harn's results-driven approach, unmatched work ethic, integrity, and honesty have earned her top producer status, as well as the loyalty and respect of her clients and colleagues. Lindsey has personally handled over 1,200 transactions, has 1.1 billion in closed sales, and is the number one agent in sales volume for San Luis Obispo County for the fourth consecutive year. This is insane. Lindsey Harn Group is ranked number 4 in the top small teams in California and number 57 in America in total sales by volume based on 2023 Real Trends, plus Tom Ferry. She's also on the Tom Ferry 1,000 list of America's top real estate teams. Lindsey is also proud to be an elite member of Christie's International Real Estate Masters Circle since 2019, one of 180 high-performing luxury agents worldwide selected for this honor. Lindsey has established herself as the go-to resource for anything real estate in San Luis Obispo County. Want everyone to follow Lindsey at her Instagram account, which is Lindsey Harn, and that's LINDSEYHARN. We will have a link to that in the show notes. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you. So I have not been to San Luis Obispo because, and just for our audience to sort of visualize where that is, it's kind of in the middle of San Francisco. It's on the coast. It's on the middle between San Francisco and LA. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Central Coast. If we got a little bit even closer, we're in between Santa Barbara and Monterey.
Well, I've been to Santa Barbara and I've been to Monterey.
Perfect.
So
yes.
Yeah, which are, I mean, everywhere
Beautiful
around
parts of the world for sure.
Just gorgeous. I love that you get to wake up every single day. I'm looking, by the way, if you're listening to this, you won't see this, but if you're watching us, you'll see the beautiful rolling mountains and hills behind Lindsey. It's just lush, green, beautiful, and what a great place. It's funny. People always get frustrated, especially right now. It's a frustrating time, I think, in real estate for a lot of agents, but at least it's good to be frustrated in beauty, in nature. So you picked a great place to practice real estate. But let's talk about how you got to San Luis Obispo, and why you set up shop there, because you are not originally from there.
Correct. So we're actually in a college town. It's called Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And so I got into Cal Poly when I was 17 years old and came here for undergrad, majored in psychology. And as part of my degree, I graduated in 4 years. We had to stay on for an internship. And so I graduated, but I was on like a living stipend with an AmeriCorps budget. So it was like less than minimum wage to volunteer at these nonprofits and give back to the community, which was a super rewarding experience. But I sort of stuck around for this 5th year while I wasn't really making any money and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with my life, but I had to follow through with my commitments. And so I kind of accidentally got a job at a real estate office as the runner. So I'll take everybody back to 2008. This was July of 2008. It was not very glamorous. There was a lot of bank owns. People in the industry were getting out of the industry as fast as
the market was tanking.
Everything was tanking. And so I was like running around for $10 an hour, taking photos of the derelict listings, filling flyer boxes and just kind of doing the grunt work, cash for keys, just kind of doing it all for a real estate agent who I had worked with. And despite how unglamorous that sounds, I thought it was really fun. You're in college and you go from school to the restaurants all the kids eat at, back to campus, and you stay in this like 1 to 2 mile radius. And being in real estate, I was driving to all these beautiful places that were outside of my bubble, and no day was the same. So I sort of fell in love with the variety and the amount of tasks that were involved in sort of that very, very entry level assistant.
I love that. And so you got your taste for that in college. You were doing your, I guess you would call it an externship, or your
Yeah.
last year, sort of giving back to the community, but really seeing probably a side of San Luis Obispo that as a college student you wouldn't have seen. So, and you got a sense for what real estate agents do, and really in a difficult time during the market. So, but I guess maybe not knowing any differently, maybe you didn't even recognize what a challenging time it was. Did you at that time, did you know sort of what was happening in real estate, or were you just happy to have some employment?
Yeah, I mean, so there was some more senior agents in the office and they're like, "Oh man, it sucks. The title company, they can only give us pens now. They used to fly us in private jets. They would bring, the coldest champagne and tequila to the office on Fridays. Everybody would just be cheersing and toasting to all the success." And I was like, "Huh, I can't even get them to get me a free pen or like an open house sign-in sheet because everybody was on such budget cuts. So I honestly am super, super grateful. Timing is everything, and how perfect of a time to learn when there was no place for complacency, and you saw fellow agents who had ridden their waves to success losing their homes, short selling their personal residences. And
Wow.
as sad and as difficult as that is, I think it was a really great way to enter a new career and realize that every year, every week, every day is an opportunity, but there are no guarantees it's going to be a hot market tomorrow. And so I think that really helped me realize I had to work really, really hard and understand the financials, that real estate is cyclical and you don't want to be caught with a ton of debt on a down cycle.
Yeah, it's something that we all of us learned who were, adults during that time and maybe owned property. A lot of us went through a similar, story there of whether it was our own personal property, our primary residence, or if we had investment properties. Certainly, there were a lot of lessons learned, and yeah, it was a difficult time to go through. And I do sort of, you're right, timing is everything. This idea that this trial by fire put you in sort of the deepest part of the pool at the worst possible time when the lightning is going on all around you and people are fleeing, for cover, and you were sort of like saying, "Oh, I don't know any different, so this is my normal." And then when things get better, obviously it probably seems like, "Oh, this can be actually, really not easy, of course, but certainly I've survived harder than this." So I think that that's really, again, a great timing. And when people leave, there's always opportunity. So okay, so you went straight in right out of college, is that right?
It's kind of an intern, and then sort of got my feet wet, realized I really enjoyed being here, so I was gonna kinda take my career to the next level, so I ended up getting my real estate license. It, again, wasn't really part of the plan, it just sort of fell into place as I was on this kind of journey of my 5th year after college, figuring out what to do. So, got licensed in 2009 and then started selling in 2010. So I was a buyer's agent on a small team at that time. And so really just running around, getting scrappy, very, very young at the time. I was probably 22 or 23 years old, and just hustling and trying to learn and preview and get as much knowledge as I could to help my buyers succeed in a challenging time.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be an easy task for a 22-year-old because number one, of course, just having the knowledge to take someone around takes time, it takes experience, and certainly too when you were also in an area that is known for having, high prices. That's also potentially a hurdle too. It's like, well, here's this 22-year-old woman who is very scrappy, but
Yeah.
but again, still that is a hurdle, right? Like people still look at a 22-year-old differently than they look at a 55-year-old woman. Like
Yeah.
that's just the reality of the world. So as for anyone out there who is a younger agent who is maybe, has those concerns about age, and I love hearing these stories because it really helps those agents who are thinking, oh, my age is a problem, or my age, I can't seem to figure out how to sort of get past that. Can you share a little bit about what you did to sort of, be able to just continue working even though you were so young?
Yeah, so I think I had a gift that I was never gonna just tell a client something I didn't know the answer to, and so just being confident is, "You know what? I'm gonna make note of that, and I'm gonna get right back to you." And so I remember every time I would run into a challenge, I was on the phone with the title company. I mean, I was negotiating short sales for people at this time. It was a whole new skill set that no college degree can really prepare you for. And so I just took detailed notes, and then I'd call the title company or my escrow officer, and I'm like, come over and help me. What do we do? Let's get our hands dirty and work through this file together. And I was just going to find the answer. And so I think I was confident that I could get the clients what they needed to know so that they could make a good decision. And I think they saw my dedication to doing what was right and not just shoving them into a house that didn't meet their needs, not having that like commission breath or trying so hard that you come across as fake, and really just trying to be super super genuine and let them know that I was going to have their best interests at heart. And if I didn't know it, I was going to find it out for them.
It's a great thing to have sort of holstered at all time. This, when I don't know the answer to something, I'm not going to stutter or stammer or give an answer that isn't accurate, which I have been guilty of in other careers when I was at that age and I was starting out in totally a different industry. I remember giving an answer that wasn't accurate, but I felt like I had to give an answer. And what I wish I would have done back then is what you did, is said, that is an amazing question. I'm going to double check with my team. I'm going to get right back to you, because nobody really holds that ever against someone. As long as they're like, I'm going to get that answer right back to you, it's a perfectly acceptable response. And even though it might not feel great at the moment where you don't have that answer, it's really your best option at that point, is to say, not even to say I don't know, just go, that's a great question. I'm going to double check. I'll get right back to you. Hang on one second. And then you just go do the thing and get the information, and then, sort of problem solved, or at least most of the time I think people would accept that. So that is it sounds like a simple tip, but it's actually a really important one, because we don't like to say we don't know, and we don't have to say we don't know. We just have to say, I'm going to double check. I'm going to just check with my team, make sure I get you the best possible answer, come back, and then, there you go. So I love that. I mean, it's little tips like that that win the game, I think. So I appreciate you sharing that one. Okay. So you got through your first year, you're on a team, and, I'm assuming the team is feeding you to some degree. They're handing you opportunities, but are you also out there trying to build your own business, trying to get your own traction?
Yeah, so I kind of hustled as a buyer's agent for about 8 years, and by doing that, and I think the benefit of being in a smaller community is word travels fast. So by like year 4, 5 and 6, I was working with a business coach, and she's like, people don't shop with Lindsay. They call Lindsay when they're ready to buy. And just like that, I'll have found them their home. And so I worked really hard to sort of get my name out there. And I think it's the compound effect. You do something for years and years, and you don't see the full reward of your effort. And then someday the phone just rings from a stranger. Oh, I've heard about you, and you're my person. When can we meet? I'm in the market to buy a home. And I think in a smaller community, that kind of traction and word of mouth can really take off. So I started kind of quietly, silently building a name for myself, and I wasn't even trying in a sense to market myself because I was busy hustling and showing buyers. But I did right by my clients, and then all of that sort of starts to compound, and then the next thing you know, you're being a sought out entity. And I
Yeah.
didn't even know all that hustling was going to lead to that. I think sometimes you're just like, I'm just going to get through the year and pay my bills, and then you get a little bit better, a little more confident. And so I think the best thing that I did was being that buyer's agent for 8 to 10 years. I've seen every type of home. I've seen every condo. I've seen every property on acreage, I became so familiar with this community that I wasn't originally from, that I became an expert in the process. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you said a lot there, and it's funny too because then we look at people like you when that phone call comes in, where all of a sudden you are a brand, like kind of seemingly overnight to the observer who isn't paying that close of attention to all the late nights, all of the hard work that goes unnoticed, and to the untrained eye, it's like, oh wow, look at her, she got lucky, she's like doing. It's like, well, no, she had 8 to 10 years of barely scraping and just hustling and doing, like you said, right by your client. And that's all people really ever want out of a service professional is do the right thing at the right time, do the hard right thing at the right time, I think. And that's what people seem to respect and are attracted to. And you're right, the compound effect, it happens. And all of a sudden, one day you do get those calls. And all of a sudden, people are seeking you out because you have built up enough goodwill. And again, the rest of the agents who maybe weren't working as hard or weren't focused as much on that part of the business, they were maybe not needing to or not wanting to or didn't have that drive or desire, and that's where the younger agent comes and gobbles up some business because they prove to the marketplace that they are worthy, and they do it through lots of blood, sweat, and tears. So I love the hustle because it's always hard work. Everything's hard. And I think that's, people look at top producers, and all I talk to on the show are top producers. They look at top producers as somehow they just kind of magically appeared. And I think logically people know that's not how it works,
Yeah.
but they don't, what they don't see on our show is as soon as we're done with the episode, the person goes back and is just crunching numbers, calling clients, doing the unglamorous, unfun. It's fun to be sort of talking on a podcast for an hour, and that's always cute and fun. And what they don't see is the other 11 hours of the day that they are not doing cute and fun things. They are literally servicing their clients, which is oftentimes not very glamorous. So I appreciate you sort of talking about that. So, okay, so you started building your own practice. You started sort of realizing that you could do this on your own. As a young person, I guess, you weren't so young by the time you really started doing it, but what were you doing to market yourself? So I know you were doing great stuff for your clients. Was that all you were focused on, or were you also out there like being prominent in the community?
Yeah, I mean, well, so it's kind of hard. So for like the first 5 to 6 years, I didn't really take vacations or take all this time off. It was just like nose to the grindstone. And then as I built a little bit of success, I started my career here in nonprofits. So I would still go out and see people and try to support the community whenever possible. But I didn't have a crazy booming social life because I worked,
Sure.
and work really consumed quite a bit of my time. It wasn't this balanced life. But when I made the decision to go out on my own in 2018 and start the Lindsey Harn group, I had helped the other offices I had worked for in the past build their own brands and build their own, social media and MailChimp and, all the different tools. And so the first thing I did when I went out on my own is I hired a marketing consultant, and I said, okay, tell me what I need to do. And then let's just get everywhere on the internet so that people looking for a top agent in San Luis Obispo County can find me. So I was like, my clients is I'm not going to have time to phone every single one of my 800 clients at that time, but I can send them a mail piece, make sure they know where I can be on Instagram, Yelp, Google, and just make myself available so that the public could find me. We're in a super unique market, because about 50% of the homes in San Luis are owned by non-owner occupants. So they
Sure.
may not even live in this county. And so I had to make a way so the people who are moving here from out of town or coming to get a beach home or maybe selling their investment property from the Central Valley, that they could find somebody that they could relate to that could get the job done for them, because I'm not going to meet these people at coffee. I'm not going to meet them at a fundraiser. They don't live here yet. And so really kind of focused on my digital presence and making sure people could find me. What was key in sort of taking it to the next level.
I'm curious too. So you have these, we'll call them, typically high net worth individuals who are, this is a second home, a third home, a vacation home, maybe a primary residence, but maybe not. Like you said, half of it isn't. And understanding that they come in from other markets, and that could be New York, it could be, wherever, you know your feeder markets. Was it important for you? I'm curious, to develop relationships with agents in those markets who would be able to, they knew you, they liked you, they trusted you, where they could send business down? Or was it, I'm so prominent on social, and I know it's not one or the other, but I'm curious what was more helpful, was building that strong social presence and that online presence so that when somebody was looking at San Luis Obispo, you came up? Or was it more that you develop relationships with agents in the primary areas where these clients came from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I found like it's a pretty split down the middle. Agents will go with someone they know if they happen to have a relationship. And then other agents will go, I have a formula, I do research, and that's how they find the agents. So a good portion of my business was definitely agent referral. And I think a lot of it came from different networking groups I was in, going to conferences, different kinds of conferences, 2, 3, 4 a year, and then sending business back and forth, and then just checking in with top agents in your feeder markets. I found, especially when I was really young and starting out, it was hard for me to find a peer group here because there weren't a lot of people my age working this hard. There weren't a lot of people my age that were successful in real estate. And so it can kind of get lonely.
Sure.
In a small town, you go, well, I'm competing against these people on a regular basis. So I'm kind of living alone at my office, just working all the time. And so I started building friendships with other top agents in our other markets. And so when I have a tough day or a tough client and I go, oh, I really need a pep talk, I call them. They've been in the trenches that day too. They maybe have a win they can share with me. And I probably now travel 3 to 4 times a year with top agents around the country because I can relate to them. They're my friends. They know what we all go through. And if you're sitting by the pool or in a museum somewhere and you have to take a phone call for an emergency client, they don't care. They're not judging you. They know they've been there. And so I think one of the things I learned and definitely helped attribute to my success is building a peer group that can help not only send you referrals but also just be a sounding board and a support group when you have hit a challenge or a wall that you need some sound advice. And the best part, if they're not local, they're not even your competition, they can give you their, hey, call my social media person, call my marketer, call my lawyer. They'll help you get through this immediately, and all of a sudden you're back on your feet and have solved this problem with the support of your friends.
You brought up a great point, is that real estate can be a very lonely business. Even if you're in a huge metro market like Chicago, we have 47, almost 47,000 realtors here. And I suspect we know this just in general. If we look up loneliness statistics in the
Yeah.
country, just generally speaking, even though we're so easily connected to one another digitally, but loneliness is actually a huge challenge right now for all of us. And even though we're so digitally connected, we're not somehow getting what we need. So this idea of finding other people who are going through the same experience you're going through, and in different markets, like you said, they're not competition, but they're having the same problems you're having. They're having the same experiences. They're going through the same challenges. Those are your people. And you're right. It's not only oh my God, I'm not alone, but it's also, oh, we can help each other. Like, we're actually good for one another because we're going through these times, and I can't do it all by myself. I need support. I need help. And the other person, of course, is doing that, and they get you, they understand you. So I think that is really a really strong point for anyone listening. If you do feel like you're going through this experience alone, well, you're not alone in that thought and that feeling, but there are solutions to that. Lindsey just talked about one. Find other agents who are having experiences like yours, maybe in your market or outside. This is what social media is good for, is you can actually find these people pretty easily and say, hey, I need an accountability partner, or I'm struggling with this thing and I'm in my second year in the business and I need somebody who's maybe in their third year in the business who's been through what I'm going through and can help me, and maybe I can help them in some way. And yeah, it takes a village, right? And so I'm so glad you said that. Really, really powerful stuff. Let's find our people. Let's find our community. I love that. And then again, you've continued to grow. You are now one of the top female agents. I don't even like to say female agents because it's almost like a little bit insulting to say female agent, because of course most agents in this market or in this industry are actually women, more women than men. But you're one of just the top agents in the country, which I love. But I also love that you're one of the top female agents. I want to talk about sort of what that means to you. Like, how does that what does that mean to you, by the way?
Yeah, I think one of the most amazing things about real estate is you don't have to have a specific degree like a doctor or a lawyer. I mean, you have certain requirements in order to hit that level. And I think what is so amazing and inspiring about being in the real estate industry is, yes, the barrier to entry is low, but there's really nothing holding anybody back. You don't have to have a fancy degree. You don't have to have come from a certain socioeconomic. There is opportunity for everyone. And I think it's provided me an amazing life, and I know that will continue. But I think the fact that there are no limits and you just have to stay positive, put in the work, and you can accomplish anything you want in this field. And I don't think there's that many careers that are like that. A lot of times you have to have tenure or get a certain certification. And in real estate, there's so many ways you can be successful that can work for so many different personalities. And I think that's a huge benefit of the industry. And I just find it really inspiring that anybody can do what I did. I didn't have a special background. I didn't come from any, really wealthy family or anything like that. It was all about making opportunities and creating this career for yourself. And I think for men and women, that's incredible. On the women part, I have a lot of women in my family, nieces. I do have a few nephews, but a lot of nieces and cousins. And I just want to show them that anything is possible. And it doesn't mean they have to be in real estate, but I want to educate them on reaching their full potential. I think a lot of people skate by in a 9 to 5. They clock in, they clock out. They're semi miserable. Maybe they're lonely. And why not do something that you're passionate about and take it to the next level and really make an impact, whatever that career path is. And so that brings me a ton of motivation. And I feel like these little people are watching, and I've got to I've got to show them what's possible.
Yeah, I love that. That makes all the sense in the world. Let's talk about building strong partnerships, because, I want to talk about how that can actually create lead opportunities for you. So tell us about strong partnerships and how that leads to leads.
Okay. I've worked with the same lender since 2009. He did my first loan, or actually before I was even able to buy my house, he sat me down and gave me like a how to buy my first home and how much I needed to save. And so since then, we've probably exchanged 120 to 150 referrals back and forth since 2010. And so when he has an opportunity to refer out a 2, 3, $4 million listing, he's giving out my name. When I have a client that's moving to the area that needs to get qualified, guess who I'm referring? And so I think we can think of partnerships in our local community and then beyond. And so I always think it makes the most sense to start building those partnerships right where you are in your market. So, every time we sell a house, we put a home inspector to work, a homeowner's insurance, an escrow, a title, an appraiser. I mean, there's all these people we touch in a transaction. So why not treat them well, provide excellent service, and build a relationship with every person you touch throughout the transaction, because chances are in their sphere of influence, they're the expert that their friends and family are going to say, "Hey, I'm thinking of buying a house," to the home inspector. "What should I do? What should I look for?" "Oh, well, you better call Lindsay." And so starting in your own backyard and getting those referral sources, I think is huge. The other benefit is they're a great knowledge source. You know what? I'm stuck. I can't get homeowners insurance on this property for my client. It's going to blow up the deal. Okay, let's call the insurance who's now my friend or at least a trusted partner, and they're going to help me solve this problem. But if I hadn't treated them well, sent them referrals, they may have bigger fish to fry. And so I think if we can start on that local level, and start tracking your numbers from a business, I probably get 20 deals a year from vendors, like just my
Wow.
local partners who are in the industry or some related leg of the industry. And then you go a little wider, like we started. Okay, where are people that are moving to San Luis moving from? I better go start talking to the top agents there. And, if you're traveling or passing through their market, take them to coffee, drop off a card. I'm here for you. Any questions you have, and just build that knowledge base. And then all of a sudden, you have 20 or 30 deals a year coming in from people you've networked with, and all of a sudden you've got a duplicatable and repeatable business that can go year to year and continue to grow.
Yeah, I love everything you said. I have a suggestion to add on to that. So
Oh,
we know that when we go through a real estate transaction, we touch all of these other industries, all of these other, a lot of times individual business owners. We have attorneys, inspectors, appraisers, lenders, etc. And as Lindsay said, you want to, of course, do an amazing job for them, and then tell them, like, I want to send you more business. Can I do that? Of course, they'll say yes. And then I would also suggest we ask each one of those, hey, what's the biggest challenge in your business right now? Just because maybe I have a solution for you, and maybe you don't. But the idea that knowing where someone is struggling, it really is a great opportunity, because it might be something you wouldn't have thought of, and you might be able to help them solve that problem through a lot of different efforts. And then you just keep track of that, knowing that that person, okay, they need leads, or they don't need leads, they need somebody to help them with some, maybe you have a solution because you know somebody that can help them solve a problem. So I love that. Building those strong strategic partnerships is really such a missed opportunity. Every time we go to that closing table, we should be thinking about all the people we touch, and we should be having personal conversations with them, saying, thank you so much for being my partner on this. I appreciate you. And how could we do more of this? Like, what do you need from me? What could I give you? And, making it a win-win. I want to talk about where we are currently, and the common sort of complaint I hear, and I don't mean complaint in a negative way, just the common reality that agents are struggling and frustrated with right now is, well, there's two. Obviously, interest rates aren't exactly where anybody would prefer them to be when we had, super low interest rates environments years ago, but we're not there today. And also, inventory isn't where it was. And we're just not seeing as many people, putting their homes up for sale. We have a lot of people at 3% mortgages that are perfectly happy where they are, or they don't want to, just move. So I want to talk about, how do you win listings? Winning listings is harder than ever right now. And how are you doing that in a low inventory market?
yeah. I mean, I think you have to have the mindset that no matter what someone's locked in at from an interest rate perspective, there are people that have to move.
Yeah.
Death, divorce, job transfer, moving out of state. I mean, there are events where a lot of people are going to have to move. So the first recommendation to have is keep your mindset right. Someone is going to move in your market today, so go find those people versus get stuck and depressed and in this negative self-talk. I think with all the industry changes that have happened, I think sellers more than ever want an expert. They want someone who is going to tell them what they need to do to sell their home, that's going to communicate, take things off their plate, and manage the process. So be the solution, because a lot of people maybe aren't super excited that they have to move. They may be giving up their dream home because they got called back into work and they were living in paradise, and now they have to go back to an office and live in a busy town that they had sort of already mentally moved on from. And so just be their support, be their expert, commit to doing what's right for them, and then have a solution with all the commission changes, and have a plan before you go in the listing. When they bring up, I guess I don't have to pay the buyer's agent anymore. You know what? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're absolutely right. And let me take you through my worksheet on exactly what your options are and how other sellers in your positions are navigating this new challenge, and have the answer. Don't stumble through that, because I have never had more conversations about commission than in the last 6 months, because the sellers are reading the news and thinking they may not have to, and they don't. But I think in reality, in most markets, that's not how it's actually kind of playing out. And so have a solution, be prepared, and be confident when you are in a listing situation like that.
And this is a great opportunity for us to leverage AI. I know we've probably heard so much about how AI can help agents, and I know we're maybe even a little sick of hearing about it. But here's one way that you might not be utilizing it: is have it run through these scenarios with these objections where people say, hey, I read this thing and apparently I don't have to pay the buyer side anymore. I get to save 2.5% or whatever the number might be. And then you as the agent then now have to have a response to that. And it doesn't have to actually, it doesn't have to be a counter, but you have to, number one, meet them where they're at. You have to explain, yes, I understand why you think that way. And here's how it's really playing out today. Here's why it's playing out that way. We'll go through the scenario. Here's what happens if you don't. Here's what happens if you do. And to have the data to back that up, and then practice it over and over and over again, so that when somebody asks you, it's like, oh, I have a great conversation piece around this. Let's talk about it. Let's go through the numbers. Let's explain to you what's actually happening, what's actually changed, and what it actually means to you, the seller. And I think this is ChatGPT's, like, this is the one thing it's really, really good at. So you could literally say it to it, hey, and now we can talk to ChatGPT, which is even cooler. Is like, you don't even have to type it out. You could say, I want to get better as a real estate agent with all the changes in the commission, and you can, by the way, you can probably find, if you pay for ChatGPT, I think it's only on the paid model, which is like $20 a month. It's really affordable. You can literally search for like real estate coaches that will help real estate agents. They're already built. Like, you don't even have to just like build it yourself. And you could just say, I want somebody to drill me. I want somebody to raise these objections and then tell me how am I doing on my objection handling? Does this make sense? And what are other agents saying? And you will get the answers. You don't even have to know the answers. That's the best part. Just ask ChatGPT. This is so funny. We did a video this morning, my colleague Risa and I, and we were talking about a tool on the MLS. And I'm not a practicing agent, so I really never use the MLS. So my like dirty little secret is I don't practice, so I don't really know the tools the realtors use, even though it appears that I do, because I have this popular show and we have 700 agents at our company. So I'm talking about this tool that I legitimately have never used because I don't practice, which makes sense. But I have to talk about it and I have to be confident in how it works. And thank God ChatGPT told me exactly everything about it. So I was able to kind of fake my way through a 5-minute video. And that's not an ideal thing to do. And if I actually had to present this to a real person, then yeah, I would learn it, of course. But the point is I just had to get through this video for a training. And the reality of it is ChatGPT is very helpful for this stuff. So please consider using it. This is what, if you can't afford a real coach, somebody that could drill you one-to-one, then hey, ChatGPT, it's $20 a month. And that's as cheap as an option as I've ever heard. And it's not that bad. It's a lot better than you might think. Okay.
On that,
go ahead.
one last note on how to win listings. So my staff and marketing team, I guess we feed ChatGPT, because I actually won a luxury listing last week, and I was in the house with the seller and he said, well, this is who you're competing with. And I just had ChatGPT compare you, and they had made like a T chart on why they should pick me over this other very highly qualified agent in my market. And ChatGPT had more pros than cons for me versus this other agent. But that's why it's so important to know your digital footprint, because more
Yeah.
and more people are going to say, "Hey Siri, call a local agent," or "Hey Siri," or and all these things. And that was just an example of how a seller made an important financial decision using the tools of ChatGPT. So feed the beast if you can.
That is wild. And you know what? It makes perfect sense because I do that too. Like I was looking for an ergonomic chair last night, and obviously I could Google best ergonomic chairs, which I did. And then I went best ergonomic chairs Reddit because I trust the people on Reddit a little bit more than what I might just find on a blog. And then I'm like, okay, but I still don't know like what's the right one. And I asked ChatGPT, and I have the paid version, and it literally was like, okay, based on what we know about you, DJ, because I've been feeding it information about me and my health and all of that. It said, we think these are the three options you should probably consider. And I was like, okay, well, it's better than I could have come up with. And now I'm exploring those three options. So you're absolutely right. People are using it in that way. And I love the fact, by the way, that is a no cost referral to you, but the cost of it is making sure, like you said, your digital footprint is really, really intentional. Like the content you're pushing out there that ChatGPT feeds from is full of really good information and full of great client reviews and all of the things that ChatGPT, because it's going to have to make a decision for this individual typing into the prompt, who should I choose as my agent? And if you have enough content out there, it's not going to call your clients for you. It's literally going to look through the data. So ask all your clients for reviews. It's more important than ever now to have them talk about their experience of working with you, making sure that you're posting a lot on social and not just listed, just solds. Let's talk about the value we provide. Let's give people actual tips about how to best get their homes ready to sell, or buyer tips or investor tips or whatever. This is what social media is really good for, is providing actual content. And we all have a phone that can do things that thousands and thousands of dollars of cameras can do, but you already have it in your phone. You literally have it. Turn it around, start talking to it, and giving it posting that content. So thank you, Lindsey. What a great point. And I love that. I think you owe a referral check to OpenAI. I love that. That is
Don't
so
tell
great.
them. Don't tell them.
Yeah, that's right. No, yeah, but it really is kind of funny. You got a referral for free because you have such a great digital footprint. I love that. That's amazing. Now let's talk about tough client conversations, because in the high net worth world, and even in the middle or low net worth world, we still have to have tough client conversations. But how do you deal with tough conversations without losing the client, without losing the deal?
I always try to get their buy-in from day one is, can I be honest with you? And so I got a call from a seller last night. Her home's on the market. It's not with a luxury agent. And she's like, it's been on the market for 78 days and we've only had 4 showings and they weren't qualified. And I am da 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 da. And I go, okay, I'm going to go look at your house today after this call. Can I be brutally honest with you? Yep. I've already looked at your photos. That front photo, it's not doing anything for me. I have no idea what I'm looking at. If I were a buyer, I would have no clue and make no request to see your home. Okay. And you have to have the tough conversations from day one, because if you're, and I'm not saying dishonest, but if you try to overly bond it in the beginning, now this is your friend, you're not the expert. It's really hard then to say, okay, now we're not friends. Today I'm wearing my mean hat, my expert hat, and now
Right.
I'm going to have to tell you your house is overpriced, your dog beds smell, and you've got to get it deep cleaned and wash your windows. But now you've lost 75 days and now you're losing your credibility with that client. And so I always try to stay super, super professional. And if we build a friendship or a relationship, it's always after the transaction's over, because they're calling you because they need an expert. They don't want to test the market. They want their home sold. They've bought another home. There is a deadline that they do not want to be paying two mortgages in this interest rate environment. So just get their permission from day one and speak with authority. And then when you say it, it's not personal. It's, I am the expert and this is what the data and the market is telling us. And here is my recommendation. Talk to your husband, talk to your wife. Let's regroup in the next 48 hours once you've had to process this, and just get their permission to be honest and have confidence.
I love that. There's a great expression with friends that I always thought was a good thing to remember is I like you enough to tell you the truth. It's actually the most respectful thing you can do is to tell somebody the truth that they can't see. And it's not easy and it's not always fun. And like you said, you ask permission because that's the right thing to do before you're about to tell somebody something that likely they don't want to hear. And, some people respond well to it, some people don't. But you're getting their buy in, say, hey, I've got some news to deliver that's really important. May I deliver that news to you? Yes, you may. Okay, here's the truth is X. Your that first picture is driving people away. It's not a good picture. People are so short attention span that they see that first picture and they just go, well, I guess this place sucks. People shouldn't be that way. It stinks that they are, but they are. So we're going to get that fixed for you. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. I love that. And people appreciate honesty, even when it's hard. And the people that don't appreciate it, you really don't probably want them as a client anyway, because they're not going to listen to you.
Right.
And the home's going to stay on the market for another 75 days because they don't see the reality and you've told them the reality. I love that though. But I love the fact that you ask permission first, because you do need permission to tell people the hard truth. And once they give you that permission, I'll bet you 95% of the time they're open to making those changes because they go, wow, she respects me enough to tell me something that I don't want to hear. I mean, people, when they reflect back on that, they respect that about agents, I think.
Well, and you're looking out for their best interest. And I would say,
Yeah.
if you were my brother, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, this is what I would say and do. So I'm going to treat
Yes.
you on that same level. And, if you only take 90% of my input and not 100, that's fine. But this is the exact same advice I would give my best friend. And that, I want you to know I have that best interest in mind. And I, I think that goes a long way, and yeah, they appreciate it in the long run.
It's so funny. We talk about these things as if they're just so easy to do. These are not easy things to do, people. We get it. We know it is not easy to tell somebody their beloved home is not as beloved to you as it might be to them and to the public, and there's a problem here, or that it's overpriced. In fact, I want to talk about that. Let's talk about pricing the home correctly, which is probably the most challenging thing I think a realtor can do with a listing, because even myself, as somebody who is kind of in the industry and certainly aware of the pitfalls that owners have about over valuing their property. I had the same exact experience maybe like 10 years ago when I was selling a condo. I knew that people like myself would think it's worth more than it is, and I still priced it higher than I should have. And I had to have a very honest conversation with myself very quickly, like, oh yeah, okay, that's not working, that's not a good idea. So let's talk about pricing the home properly. What is your strategy to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times right now, at least in California, like I'm meeting with people in February or January, and we're putting their house on the market in April. And so at that listing appointment, we talk about price, and I say, look, I don't have a crystal ball. Our first impression is key. Our first impression is the photos, the video, the marketing materials, and the price. And so right now we're penciling in a price of X and we're signing this contract. But 1 week before we hit the market, we are going to sit back down, run a new CMA, and we are going to fine tune it, because it does make all the difference. Does and get their buy-in on that. I go, in a perfect world, the market will be the same or slightly better. I can't control what's going to happen in the future, so we need to readjust and be willing to do that. I think there's also in the super high end, sometimes we'll test it. We'll have it as a pocket listing, show a couple buyers we know who are looking and get their objections and their feedback before we're publicly listed on the MLS. And that way I can go to the seller, look, this one or two things are going to keep coming up as objections. So we need to fix it, find a solution, or price it into our final price. And I think people like in the super high end to sort of know about something a little bit early, to have this exclusivity. And so I think that's a win for the potential buyers, the potential sellers, and for the listing agent. And if you don't have buyers in the price range, maybe you grab your office mates and you say, look, I'd like your unbiased opinion. Get back
Yeah.
to me. I will give you early access to see this incredible property. I'm just going to ask you spend 5 minutes privately after the viewing and get back to me with what the list price should be and what you think it'll actually sell for. And exchange, you're providing them something of value that the rest of the market doesn't have early access to. And so,
Ooh. That is a great tip. What a great idea, especially in a low inventory environment. I love that
yeah.
nobody has ever shared that tip in our 600 and whatever episodes we've done over 7 years. That is an amazing tip. So I just want to reiterate what Lindsey just said because that was brilliant. So what she said is, hey, I want to make sure my pricing is accurate here. You say this to other agents, and you say, as a thank you to you for coming to check out the property, you'll have sort of first look at it, but I really need your input. I need you to think about you, put your buyer hat on, take a look, tell me what you think this home is actually worth, what you think it's going to sell for, because one of you guys is going to probably bring a buyer for it anyway, and I want to make sure that that I'm not missing something. So, boy, that is brilliant. Oh, boy, I love this. You really do take a lot of advice. You take advice from your peers. You take advice from clients. I just love that. You're very, very wise. I think very smart to do that. So, wow. Well, I want to finish with one thing, which is lots of people want to become top producers, and of course, who doesn't want to be a top producer? But let's talk about what's the reality of a top producer. So, give us the reality of being a top agent.
Well, I think a lot of people think I'm going to get into real estate as sort of this part-time flexible career. I can, you know, raise a family, I can maybe have another job, and I'm just going to sort of do that for fun or for hobby or to supplement my income. I think the hard part with that is once you actually gain traction and start getting clients, particularly in a low inventory market, it's 24/7. Buyers have their own alert set on Zillow, Redfin, their website of choice. You have to constantly prove to your clients that you're providing more value than the internet, their cell phone, chat GPT that they have access to already. So that requires a full time and a half. I always say I work full time and a half, about 60, 70 hours a week, because if you're going to be a top producer, you have to generate business every day. You have to maintain client relationships every day. You have to work through challenges on escrows, problems that come up. You have to be networking with other agents. You have to be in charge of marketing, advertising, and doing it all again the next day. And so if you want to be setting boundaries, like you can call or text me between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and otherwise I will return your call the next business day. Real estate is a 24/7 business. I've done deals on Easter, I've done deals on Christmas Eve. When the right property and the right opportunity comes up in a low inventory market, you've got to be able to pounce. And so it's key to set your schedule and your expectations that if you are going to be a top producer, there will be late nights, there will be early mornings. The payoff in the end for a lot of people will be worth it, but it's certainly not for everybody.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice. All of it's a sacrifice, and you don't get the perfectly balanced home and work and social life. It's just, first of all, I don't know that perfectly balanced is even a real thing. So the quest for that, I think, is a bit erroneous in nature. But if you want to be a top producer, you are going to work a lot of hours. It's just unfortunately the way of the dragon, right? It's just how it goes. but the rewards are really great. So you get to have great rewards, but at great sacrifice. But at the same time, you have established a balance for yourself. You can tell you are a seemingly sort of peaceful person. You seem relatively accepting of kind of what the reality is. You're not. I was speaking to you before we started, and you didn't seem stressed about inventory or interest rates. You have a plan. You're like, I'm just working my plan. I'm doing the thing I always do, which is work really, really hard and maybe outwork the next agent a little bit and just have fun along the way too, which is really part of it. And just, decide to keep going. So I love that. I think that is really good advice. There's this great story. I can't remember the name of. There was a famous violinist at a party in New York City, like 30 years ago. Somebody came up to them at a cocktail party and they knew who that person was and said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could play the violin like you." And he said, "No, you don't, because you didn't. Because if you did, you would know that it's so much work that you trust me, you wouldn't want to do it. If you wanted to do it, you would do it." He's like, this is what I do. This is my entire life. And he didn't mean it to say that he has a bad life. He has a great life. He's this world-renowned violinist, but it becomes an obsession. It becomes their life. And, the willingness to put in that kind of work is what the good news is for people that are willing to put in the work. It's not that crowded. There's not that many people really doing that. Of course, there's always people coming up behind you, but that's great for, competition and all of that. So I appreciate that. And by the way, it's okay to not to want to be a top producer too. If you want more balance in your life, maybe top producer isn't the thing. And maybe that's a good idea. That's certainly not for everybody. But if you do want to go down that path, you have to recognize, and just, what I always say is go hang out with a top producer for a week, see what their schedule is like. It will floor you. It will absolutely floor you. And then you'll see, do I enjoy this kind of schedule? Is this for me? If it isn't, then that's not for you. But what's really cool is when, and I find this, I've almost found this exclusively with top agents. They seem to really love it. There's something about it. There's something about real estate that it seems to be worth all the hard work for a top agents. Like I really don't talk to top agents who are miserable. Maybe they just don't be on my show or I didn't find them. I really don't do that. I know there's other professions. I've talked to really successful attorneys that are miserable. I've talked to successful doctors that are miserable. I don't know what it is about real estate, but there's something about it. I know it's not less work. So I know there's something about it that people who are attracted to becoming a high producer seem to really like it. So, and what a blessing that is, like to actually like the thing that you're doing all the time. I don't think if I was a doctor, I wouldn't be a very good one, number one. But number two, I don't think I'd want to see a patient every 15 minutes. And most doctors, that's how it works. And
Yeah.
that's a tough grind for 50 years. So, we think about, oh, well, these professions, they have so much reward. It's like, well, yeah, but there's a lot of work involved. But I think real estate, like you were saying earlier, it's very merit based. It's very much, it's kind of like sports in a way. And I don't want to totally compare it to sports, but I think there is a connection there where we look at athletes and we think, well, you just have to be the best. And if you're the best, it doesn't matter what you look like. As long as you're the best, you could probably make it in a professional, sports league. And the same thing here in real estate. As long as you have a good plan and you execute it and you get feedback and you keep trying, you're probably going to do okay. So I think there's something very magical about this industry. And not every industry is like that. Like you could be the best, any other industry sort of, person and not reap a lot of rewards. So I think real estate is very merit sort of focused. And anyway, you've given me some things to think about for myself. So Lindsey, I appreciate you. You are doing it, and I know as soon as we finish this episode, you're going to go back to doing it. So we appreciate you taking time out of your day on behalf of the audience to tell us about how you do it. So thank you. And on behalf of Lindsey and myself, we want to thank you guys. Thank the audience for sticking around all the way to the end of the show. You just did something great for yourself. You're learning from a wonderful person and a top producer here who's willing to just tell you, this is what I do all day, guys. This is how it works. And how generous is she for that? So let's shoot her a note. Let her know how much you appreciated her being on the show. And of course, from Lindsey and I to you, we thank you. I want to tell everybody, please support our sponsors. Please check out their products and services. They're the reason we can keep doing the show, and let them know that you appreciate them. And also tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that's struggling right now. Lots of agents are struggling. So send them a link to this episode. It might just be what they need to get through the next couple of months. It's cold. Well, not where Lindsey is, but for most of the country, it's pretty nasty out there right now. So let's put a smile on people's faces. This is a great episode to share. So tell a friend, and also leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show wherever you're listening to this on. Maybe it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think. We make improvements based on your suggestions. All right. We will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Lindsey.
Thank you.